think I'm a fool? I know you're not the Dragon Warrior. None of you! I heard how he fell out of the sky on a ball of fire.
You are going to be part of something beautiful.
Your chi is strong. Just like your friend, the bug.
Master, please. This is what you've trained us for.
No, it is not your destiny to defeat Tai Lung. It is his.
A peacock is defeated by a warrior of black and white.
He can only be stopped by a master of chi.
The Furious Five, China's greatest masters, Shifu-star pupils, and some of Kung Fu Panda's most memorable characters. The Furious Five are introduced as an elite group of Kung Fu masters who are celebrated as heroes and understandably admired by the valley they preside over, only for that admiration to shift when everyone's favorite panda is selected to be the Dragon Warrior. Even so, Kung Fu Panda 1 establishes the Five as an actual cast of characters with their own personalities and role in the story. Tigress is cold and direct, Viper is sweet and caring, Crane is polite and soft-spoken, Monkey is accepting and comedic, and Mantis is sympathetic and reasonable. These distinctions inform the audience of their characters, which shine when interacting with Po. Tigress openly berates him, telling him how he doesn't belong in the Jade Palace, when beforehand Crane says the same thing but in relation to his room. Monkey stops laughing at Po after accepting that he won't give up despite laughing at him before. Viper taunts Po during their training session but switches up to reprimand Mantis when he makes a joke about him. Mantis learns from this interaction and makes a conscious effort to relate to Po. Even Tigress, to a much lesser extent, comes to terms with the panda being there through telling him Tai Lung's story. It's these small interactions that build the characters into people who adapt and change with the world around them, and all of this culminates in the noodles scene. Despite Po's lackluster kung fu ability, the Five speak with him and even take interest in his stories. They also ignore Tigress's comment, which would have never happened when he first arrived. The scene capitalized on everyone's newfound familiarity with Po, much to Tigress's surprise. Her personality separates her from the scene as the camera focuses on the other four while leaving her out of frame. It's only when the scene shifts to a more serious tone, the camera pans out and Tigress commands the scene. This moment is meant to illustrate the dynamic of the Five as a group, showing how the rest of the Five are open to fun while Tigress remains stoic and serious, allowing an interaction that feels much like a bunch of co-workers after work talking about their uptight boss. Their dynamic is further explored against Tai Lung as their efficiency in jumping him cements their connection as a team. Their defeat also plays an important role because they actually put up a good fight against him rather than getting one-tapped. It comes across as Tai Lung's skill eclipsing theirs rather than a cheap tension builder for the movie's climax. The Five don't really do much at the end of the movie, though maybe they should have. Po doesn't really fare well in his fight against Tai Lung, and for the most part, he's losing. Having the Five be there would have been a bit more climactic and conclusive as to the Five accepting him. Still, Po fighting solo is more so for his self-respect, and that's a constant theme throughout the movie. Overall, the film does a perfect job of introducing each member of the Five. They feel distinct from one another while still complementing each other nicely. Tigress and Crane, Viper and Mantis, with Monkey feeling like a medium between them. For the Five's first appearance, the care behind their characters is evident, and they remain important to the story even after their defeat, and are important to Po's character arc overall for the movie, as all he wanted was for them to finally accept him, which he inevitably got. Kung Fu Panda 2's opening gives a nice follow-up to the Five's connection with Po as it feels a lot more developed. Before, the Five felt distant, characters meant to be watched from afar rather than knowing them up close and personal. Now they're a group of people that are openly expressive while maintaining consistent characterization. From Monkey getting annihilated by bean buns to Tigress stoically blocking them, they behave like an actual group of friends that have unique activities to get up to in their downtime. It serves to be a solid opener showing a passage of time and how things have changed for everyone before getting into the main story. The first encounter with Shen's forces sets the tone for the Five's importance as the villagers don't even seem excited to see them. This may be a minor nitpick because Po is basically a celebrity all throughout China, but so are they. They didn't just come out of nowhere. They've been defending China for years, so this decline in their popularity and excitement at their appearance doesn't really make any sense. a notion that continues as they fall into Poe's shadow more and more as the story progresses, making commentary here and there or getting injured to reinforce Poe's lack of focus. Kung Fu Panda in and of itself is meant to be Poe's story, so it's natural he is the main focus. However, the same could be said for the first movie, where the five get a lot more shine. This treatment of irrelevance is not the same across the board, as Tigress takes the spotlight, acting as Poe's emotional crutch throughout the movie. She's the first to help him on the boat, talks him down in the prison, and shows the most emotion after he's supposedly killed. Tigress overshadows the five because she is the only one with a role in the story. It makes the rest of the five appear as glorified background characters rather than the important side characters they were before. Poe taking on somewhat of a leadership role and being the main motivator for the five also takes away from their team dynamic. Before, they felt self-sufficient and could rely on each other to make a difficult call. Now it feels that their success hinges on his participation. A prime example being their plan to blow up the factory. It's horribly thought out, as the wolves could have just put out the flames like they did during their dialogue, and their lack of involvement with the main villain puts them in an awkward position as well because they don't pose him a threat at all. Shen being defeated by Poe is nice and all, but the five should still interact with the actual antagonist because they have equal stake in his defeat along with Poe. Interacting with Shen would make them feel more present in the story than just having them take out grunts all the time. During the climax of the story, the five are captured and presumably at their lowest, to the point Monkey steps up telling everyone to stay strong, pushing the idea of the five being able to lean on one another. However, when Poe arrives, he steals the possibility for the five to put themselves back into the fight, and they team up again to take down Shen. Yet, that isn't what happens. Instead, the five get nuked, being reduced to fodder and a stepping stone for Poe's big moment. This is not to look down on the scene because the story had been building up to this huge payoff, but the way the five don't even get a moment leading up to it is less than disappointing. Kung Fu Panda 2 does very little for the five's importance as characters. While there are character moments for them, Tigress is the only one who gets seriously developed, with the other four being left in the dust. The reason for this is because from a story perspective, they have nothing to do. The first movie had the five as competent and strong beyond comprehension, setting a point for Poe to reach in martial ability and respect. Now that Poe has reached and surpassed their level, they become sidelined and less prominent. It's a downgrade from their appearance in Kung Fu Panda 1, and Kung Fu Panda 3's portrayal of them is even more egregious. Kung Fu Panda 3's opening scene for the five gives the same degree of characterization and development as 2. The way they order food at Mr. Pink's noodle shop and their clear fatigue of Poe's quirky personality shows how much time they spend together. Tigress checks her nails, Crane cleans his wing, and Monkey just sits down. It all allows the five to be themselves, contrasting Poe's over-the-top nature. Then, an odd moment occurs when Shifu announces his final class, and the only one who comes to his side with actual worry is Poe. The five have been under Shifu's tutelage since they were teens, so one would think that after all that time together, they'd be a bit more worried, but no. They're just standing in the background, doing and saying absolutely nothing. Then we get the reveal that Shifu isn't dying, but he is stepping down, passing the mantle to Poe, which leads into another training hall scene that does two things. One, it displays the respect the five have for Poe as they immediately accept him as their teacher, and two, it shows their capabilities are nerfed beyond all belief. The five are used to make Poe look like a bad teacher because they follow his instruction to the T and get punished, which makes sense if they were complete novices. Crane running into Viper doesn't make any sense because he should have the natural reactions to avoid her. Tigress should be able to easily keep her footwork even with Viper sitting on her head, as goofy as that sounds. These are the same masters who fought Tai Lung on a vine tightrope while making up a combat strategy on the fly. The inconsistency in their physical ability is present before, but never to the point they forgot how to balance or dodge incoming attacks. In Gongmen City, Tigress catches an arrow she's not even looking at, but now she can't because there needs to be a joke. Before, the training hall scenes introduced the five's characters, showing their ability, intensity, and the familiarity between them. Now they're portrayed as complete novices that are used for comedic relief. It sets the tone for how the characters are supposed to be perceived before Poe leaves them to push the plot forward. With Kai on the loose, Crane and Mantis are placed in charge of tracking him down, resulting in their capture. However, they don't put up a fight. Mantis just stands there and says a funny catchphrase, while Crane tries to walk away with zero consideration for his friend's safety. His initial reaction is to flee when coming face to face with the main villain instead of finding his friend. This is not the same Crane from the first movie who followed his friends into battle despite knowing the threat, or who fought to stop a weapon that would have destroyed Kung Fu. This is someone completely different. Both Mantis and Crane are written off as jokes to raise tension in the cheapest way possible. Their encounter with Kai doesn't spark satisfying buildup for the final clash like before. Instead, they're two characters that have no role whatsoever and needed a reason to exit the story. The same can be said for Viper and Monkey, who were at least given the ability to put up a fight against Kai before getting captured themselves. So once again, Tigress is left the only important character from the five. So much so the plot conjures a map to the Panda village into her mind, just to rehash the jail scene from the previous movie. This scene goes to show how little planning went into creating a reason for Tigress to be in Kung Fu Panda 3, much like her friends. She's left in the background to make funny faces at Poe's unorthodox training methods, fights jombified Master Croc, and celebrates with her friends and all the other background characters in the movie's final scene. The Furious Five are beyond shells of their former selves. They have good moments in the beginning and nothing else. They rarely have anything meaningful to lend to the story, and when they are on screen, they might as well not be. They were included into the story so as to not feel forgotten or left out by the writers, when in reality, that's exactly what happened. The callbacks to Kung Fu Panda 2 and using them as a vehicle for comedic relief is not satisfying or fun to watch. It's a constant reminder that throughout this movie, they had no place or direction. Tigress, Monkey, Viper, Crane, and Mantis are some of the best supporting characters in the past decade. Kung Fu Panda 1 had them interact with the story and main character, pushing the plot forward and giving proper build up to the film's climax. Kung Fu Panda 2 saw their agency begin to fall away in favor of being linked to Poe with minimal character moments except for Tigress. Finally, in Kung Fu Panda 3, they're treated as jokes with little to no reason behind their appearance within the story. The Furious Five are not disappointing characters. Rather, their downfall into irrelevancy is disappointing to watch.